let's say before the workshop or before even that one session we did online, before that, on a scale of 1 to 10, what was like your set state of mind or state of happiness during that time?
4.5.
4.5.
Yeah.
And then right after the workshop,
Right after the workshop, I felt like the king of the world.
10 on 10.
And
And then
after that,
yeah. So Jyoth, welcome to the interview.
Hey bro, how's it going?
Super excited, bro. Everyone is excited sitting in lockdown. So
Yeah, all the energy is reserved, or we just want to get it out.
so you're home away. Like right now,
Yeah.
are you at home with your parents?
Yeah.
Okay, so how's
yeah.
Tell me.
So all the things we learned during the inner child workshop, all of them are being tested now.
Yeah.
It's a test for my.
So how many days has it been away with parents right now?
I guess the lockdown in India started at 21st March. So I was here since
3 weeks.
So, yeah, almost a month.
Okay, so any fights or anything has happened till now?
I mean, their nature is the same, right?
Yeah.
You can't really change them, and there's no point.
Yeah.
So you can't really change them. But what I've seen is the triggers.
Yeah.
Like the things used to have drastically reduced. So earlier it was a lot of, like constantly feeling those emotions. But now the conversations are also very light. It's just normal. It's like it's mental peace firstly, and then secondly it's just because you realize that they are also in pain, right? They are also acting out of something, so you can take that into account. Earlier though, it was just subconscious mind just dictating you, but now I feel a greater sense of control.
Right. So more control, more relaxed moments at home. And then I mean, since it's the lockdown and everyone is spending more time with their parents and with brothers and everything, so has that also changed? Have you been spending more time maybe doing activities together that you didn't used to do, or maybe some things that you used to do before earlier, when you were growing up, and now that relation is getting better?
Oh yeah, obviously. I mean, there are no activities per se, but we do spend a lot of time like talking and stuff, and it is not key. It's like a proper communication between parents and children. It's not like if I have something to say, or I openly speak it out, and I try to when someone is trying to get hyper, like for example, father is trying to get hyper, I'll be like, let's just calm down and let's just focus on where we are getting at. So earlier you'll just exit the situation, but and the only thing that happens is it makes things worse.
Exit or maybe retaliate.
Retaliate was a big part, because then it's like the energy, it keeps on feeds
on
like
itself.
a loop. Yep.
Good stuff. Our workshop happened in September, right? September or October or something. That's when. So, so during that time, first tell me, like, why did you decide to, come for the workshop, and what motivated you to come for the workshop?
So, before this workshop, also, as you know, I was into personal development, and I was into self-help.
Right.
So, but when I came across this, like how everything that you do, your life, your goals, your aspirations, or whatever you think of yourself, the way you act in social environments, the way you act at work, has some or more links to your childhood. So I was just curious to get to know more about that, and also I felt that if I could release those past anchors, release those past patterns, I can really unlock my new potential. And like, it might sound for a outside person that person is using buzzwords and the person is just trying to create a fancy picture, but it is what it is. You feel a totally different person when you do that. And like during the workshop, like I knew that some things matter, but like it went so deep that we don't even realize that it can be so deep. And like every single human being goes through that. In cases it's more extreme, some it's just normal.
Right.
So yeah.
So continuing on these two things. Firstly, is like you were saying that you wanted to get rid of subconscious anchors. So firstly, what were those subconscious anchors basically that you wanted to get rid of? And then once that's done, tell me more about you talking about we went way deeper. So what were those realizations after we went through those anchors, and then what deeper realizations came up during that time?
So, the first thing is because I felt that in social conditions, I am a bit shy, right? So I felt that I tend to restrict myself. The second thing was I was self-conscious.
Right.
How am I coming across? What should I say? What should in what ways should I act upon? And will they accept me? Will they not? So because these things might seem small, but when you are put in the situation, you just start acting up according to that. So this was something I wanted to explore. And when we attended the workshop, we realized that stuff like criticism, stuff like comparisons, stuff like shame and guilt, and kind of just upbringing you are brought up in, you kind of identify yourself with that. Let's just say if someone in your family, your parents or some close relative tells that you can't do anything, or you should keep quiet, not speak so much. So that can just have a huge impact on a child. And more often than not, we are not able to let go of that. And one of the, like, I guess in the first day, when we realized is, that different kinds of personality traits we develop. Some of us might be bullies, or some of us might become people pleasers.
Right.
So, we found out how it was related to that, because it was basically an unmet need. Like a person who could be a bully might be getting abused at home, and he wants to, it's like the triangle, right?
Drama triangle.
Yeah. So
victim perpetrator.
Exactly. So you feel as a victim, and as a victim you tend to please everyone, doing things which you don't want to do.
Okay, so basically, so like being in social environments, you felt more shy. That was one thing that you wanted to get done, right? Then when it came to like relationships, even like social relationships or romantic relationships, how was that before the workshop and then after working together?
Like broadly, I will classify this. One is relationships, and the other is career. So first, I will get into relationships. Earlier, it was like I was just too restrictive, and could never really, put myself out there, to put it in simpler terms. And it was always like I was always looping in the future that maybe one day, when I have this, I'll be able to do this and they will listen to me. Or one day when I have that, they will listen to me. Or when I am boss of the company, or when I am this, when I am that. It was always some kind of story looping in my head. And even in relationships, like when I'm talking to my friends, it's like I'll feel that they will laugh at me. And, they might just say the joke, like friends joke around. But because of those internal pains, I could like take it upon me to not consider it as a joke, as a funny moment, but think of it as a actual situation that like actually telling me that. So, and also like before, when someone was actually trying to help me, when someone was trying to give me a suggestion, they just wouldn't land. Like I was always be self-conscious rather than just hearing the thing. For example, let's just say someone tells me ki, you don't put in a lot of effort, and if you put in some amount of hours, you will be able to be more productive. Right. So I will only hear ki you are not able to do the work.
And then feel personally attacked.
Yeah. After that, my mind will just shut off. And so what happens is the other person also realizes that we can't have a relationship with that person. And when it comes to emotional or intimate relationships, the pattern was the same. I could never connect with a person on a deeper level. Always like you can only connect with a person if you actually on yourself, you're self-fulfilled. You're not seeking anything. And a fruitful relationship is one in which two secure people come together, and they can build from that. They can build themselves and they can build the relationship.
Yeah.
But for me, it was always like this. Like my eyeballs are like this. See, what am I saying? What am I doing? What will happen?
Hyper vigilant always. Yeah.
Yeah. Those 3 days were quite intense, right? And it takes some of the things, it takes time to land. You can't just, this healing is a process. It will take time. Some days you might find yourself going into old patterns. But the difference is now I have realized, okay, this is happening. It's not something, earlier I couldn't even identify. It was like something is wrong with me. That's why it's happening.
Okay, so how has this come out in like any more of a tangible situation in life, or like with like a clear example, more concrete and tangible?
Okay, so earlier, like I used to shy away from going out, like socializing, right? And now I just hit up the clubs regularly.
Right.
I go out with my friends regularly.
Yeah.
And I'm usually the person who, instead of being the most quiet, I'm the person who is like the center of attention. It's not like I don't feel that I need to be center of attention. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And like earlier, I used to feel that should I talk with that person? What will happen? Now I feel that, it's just people are out to talk with each other.
Yeah.
And it's not a lot of pressure on me. I feel that I'm unburdened. So I just go out and I talk with them. And another thing is I developed a very intimate relationship with a girl. So before this, I don't really feel I could have done that. Because I was just, when I started talking with her, I was just fun. I was just trying to get to know the person.
Yeah.
On a deeper level, not just the surface level, because I genuinely wanted to know the person. And that person has told me that before that I hear men coming up and they are just, it's like you're just turned off after a few minutes, a few months. But with you, I feel like I can actually connect, and there is no judgment or labeling on everything I say or do. So that was really profound for me, and that really helped. And also, like, when that person is actually, like, we were in a relationship, so when that person has suggestions for me, I don't go into that own zones. Like, that person is actually wants something for the relationship. I don't, like, one of the things was at this point I want you to talk more, during night I just want half an hour of your time, and like, we can talk. Now, knowing the earlier me, I have to dictate terms.
Stay in control.
I'll call you when I want to call you.
Achha.
So now I'll be like, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, we can talk. So just a very short example.
Yeah, I mean, less of like a control, like less controlling, more intimate. And then with socializing, you mentioned you had a lot of fears before when you used to go out, and now you can just go out and have fun with people. You're the center of attention. So what were those exact fears that if I go out, this will happen, or how was the mind state before?
Once I went with my friend to a club, right? It was club or I don't know. So I went there, and he was very social. So he used to talk a lot. This was earlier before the workshop. And you're you would just go and you will like tap a girl and you just talk. Like, what?
Right.
Do you know her? His boyfriend will that someone will beat you, dude. Why do you want to get us in trouble?
Okay.
And then he was like, dude, just go say hi to that person.
Yeah.
Like, and at that moment when he put me in the sort, I was like, fuck, I can't do that.
Yeah.
That person will slap me. That person will throw the drink on my face.
Right.
So it was like, I just couldn't move. It was like someone literally pushing me back. I just couldn't walk further. And now it's like the fear sometimes is it has completely vanished, and I'm like, I feel like Captain America that I can do fucking anything, or Iron Man in our case. Now the mental chatter has drastically reduced.
Right. So, and more clarity to do things.
More clarity. And it's like earlier I used to, during my early years, I used to hear this line, if you want something, go get it. And it's actually that simple. If you want something, go get it. But you can't really do that until you release those anchors.
So because of that, you feel a lot of, I mean, if they're there, so there's a lot of fear and feeling like something bad will happen.
Exactly.
And feeling like social situations are mainly unsafe because of in the past you've had similar experiences.
And naturally, I was like, no one will accept me because I am unworthy. I felt like I have low self-esteem, and like I felt like I never belonged to this crowd.
And what was the core reason when you found out that where does this low self-esteem come from?
It was like low self-esteem was being constantly, criticized during early years, constantly being abused.
Growing up.
Oh yeah. Growing up. So, like I remember sharing one of the stories, like when we were doing something and like I broke something up and I was just started, I was trashed after that.
So this was, I mean, where was this? At your house or?
At my house.
Okay, so with your parents?
With my parents, yeah.
Okay.
And also, let me just complete one sentence. So I was just trashed. I felt like, am I less worthy than these plates? And also, like, while going out, as a kid, you just want to dance, you just want to, and you were constantly restricted. Ki, "Nahin, you should not do it. Our kids don't do it. Behave yourselves." So, and so that just for a child, that just inhibits them. They're like, they can't do anything because if they do that, they'll get a scolding of their parents. They will have to deal with that, and they will have to deal with that pain, and that pain sticks with you. So whenever you are put in that similar situation, it's flight or fight response. So you just try to, get away from that situation.
Okay, so that's like one of the core things. And then, so how much of a role did school experiences also play into this? In your case, particularly. So this is mainly like the home car time when we're growing up before school. But then when we go into school, then like a new level of trauma starts to come. New level of, like, let's say by comparison or by feeling like you're lesser than someone else or getting bullied or being judged on marks or academics and things like that.
Yeah. So first is like living in an Indian society, you're constantly being compared. Like, when will your name show up on the blackboard?
When will you get medals to the family and not bring disgrace?
I brought this trophy cabinet. It is still empty.
Right.
So, you start getting into that comparison battles. And similarly, this was the case for me also. And being in a family of a person who have been into academia, who are in teaching and stuff, I had to do well. So, and when I couldn't, I just felt unworthy. And this manifests in my current work where I'm like, I might not be able to do that job, right? I might not be able to get that done. Or I will just constantly procrastinate because I feel like I can never get this done. And also, like in school, like I was the most shy kid, right? So I was always like, I had this little group of nerds, right? So, I just used to hang on with them. And like there was some kind of hate for the cool kids. They were like, what do they do the things, what are they? Like making those fucking spikes. What the fuck, who does that? Study, dude, we are here to study.
And you're anyway wearing a turban, you can't make spikes anyway.
Dude, hearing those jokes all the time, like every time the clock strikes 12. Hey dude, hi.
Yaar, I've made those jokes while growing up. Enough number of times. Yeah.
So, 12 बज गए and hey मोटे तू भाग ही नहीं पाएगा, you will not be able to run, and So after this workshop, I realized is whenever I'm with a group of friends, whenever I'm with close people, whatever they say, whatever happens, I just take it upon myself.
Yeah.
Like it's like the words of doom. Right? So, again, because it was like school was a constant cycle of that. Like getting those same experiences, you just think that it is normal now. It is only natural. This will happen. I will be called a Sardar. I will be called this. This is who I am. So it just kind of put myself down. And whenever I was out, the slightest of thing, I would take it to my heart. and after that I would just go into that depression or whatever,
Right.
like being extremely low, like and extremely stressful, like high levels of cortisol inside of me. Like school for me was like I thought my identity was just to be a shy workaholic kid who'll sit behind a desk and listen to the man, right? And now I have outgrown that. I have my own company. I run a business.
Right.
So the kid that at that time could never have imagined that. For him, it was like getting into IIT and going to US was the ultimate dream, right? So when that didn't happen, it was like, fuck, I will be a failure.
So doing all that, was that your choice, like getting into IIT or working, or
No.
that was because of circumstance? This is the best that I can, or this is what's expected from the family.
It was like my parents, actually, to be honest, they gave me a choice to pick streams, but it was like the students who pick science are intelligent, are like they are the cream. So I thought maybe now I can realize is that I will get my parents' love only when I'm the cream. So I subconsciously picked science, even though I was good in activities like writing and the creative arts side. I never thought, because humanities in our society is like the worst kind of children are there. So yeah, and I thought that getting into engineering, and that movie Three Idiots came around, and I will go and build planes and like drones and stuff. And I couldn't. I don't have the like aptitude to do that.
So he was again coming from receiving your parents' love and trying to live up to that rather than your own thing.
And you just feel that it is normal. Like you don't even realize that it is a problem. It's like complete denial of it. Like we have talked about it earlier, that a lot of people are in denial.
Defense mechanisms. Yeah,
exactly.
So then, how does the realization come? Like, when did you realize? During the workshop or before that? We did a session before that also on like a live webinar, right?
Yeah. On the live webinar was like the thing that made me, get to this, because those visualization exercises that we did. Like I was literally crying. I was shaking. There was like so much of shouting also. That is when I realized that I need to do this. I need to, work on that issue of my life. And after that, during the workshop, again, it was like I got to know so much, and it was so intense. So I absorbed all of it. And now when life happens after that, you in situations, you realize it. In situations, a lot of situations, I was like, I'm acting like the same dude I was 10 years ago. Or maybe because that guy said, I am hating that person. I'm not understanding that they were just having fun. Or like, actually, I can get the work done and there is no need to procrastinate. Or in my case, like I'm trying to escape by eating all the food. Like using food as an escape mechanism.
Food addiction was like काफी big for you, na? We spoke about that also a lot. Yeah. So continue about that. Let's talk about that a bit.
So I now I know that it was a feeling of uneasiness, and it was like I have to fill something up, even though I didn't need food. I just felt like I'm hungry, and I just to get away, because comfort food relaxes you in whatever way, I don't know. So it just calms you down. So there was this, I had to do it. It was like a loop. I was just addicted to ordering food from outside, and just constantly putting food that doesn't even have nutrients, has no nutritional value. And after that, like during the workshop, we talked about Sattvic Bhojan, and so eating raw and having that taste of that is also like becoming a part of my lifestyle now. And what I feel is, like, especially during these lockdown days, we just can't order food from outside. The energy level is like super high. So I woke up at 8 in the morning, and like I can go on for hours right now. Dal kha rahe. Just eating dal.
And earlier you'd get all lethargy because of eating junk and
pasta
everything.
And burgers and
pizza. Pizza mangwa rahe, burger mangwa rahe raat bhar. So basically food was an escape mechanism to run away from intense emotions.
I didn't even consider it that way before that.
Yeah.
For me, it was just like, I'm a foodie. You know? So
yeah, and that's how addictions basically work. So addictions are either going to like numb you down or either really overstimulate you. So when you cannot feel anything, when you become completely numb, then when you take drugs or smoke or eat something, it might make you feel something at least, because that's very intense. It raises you up, makes you feel something. Of course, it's after that it's a crash. Like when you have something sugary, it's gonna give you a sugar rush and then get you to a crash. And then at the same time, when you're feeling too intense emotions, you don't know how to process those emotions, then to escape, you again eat food which is going to numb you down, mainly like junk food, which is tamasic food. It's going to numb you down, make you feel like nothing, and then just get into a state of sloth basically. Yeah, not feeling anything. So for me, my addiction, when something intense would happen, like so I think maybe 4 times or 5 times I've felt that something intense would happen. I would do something for which I'd be really embarrassed or really sorry, or gone through a really traumatic time. I'd just go sleep. I can't deal with this, I'll go sleep. So that time sleep was like the coping mechanism, and then I'd feel better. So
for
like
me also, like whenever I used to feel that I have a lot of work to do, I would just go sleep.
Yeah, and then it can lead to like just being in bed at all time and not even like getting out of bed, leading to mild depression or maybe even chronic depression, because that's like one mechanism that how to cope with it. So this one time I broke up with this girl, so then again I was like, bhai, I'm gonna go sleep. Then when I was growing up, then something bad had happened. I can't remember it clearly, but then I couldn't deal with it. I went and slept. Then this one time I was driving and I slammed this dude's car. Okay, and I felt so guilty because it's his new car, and I was reversing, looking at the back and not looking in the front. So when the car swerves, the front of the bonnet of the car hit his car, and the dude didn't even pick up fight. He's just like, bro, why would you do that? And I felt so guilty after that, because if he had picked a fight, I would have still gotten into fight. But then he felt guilty. So then I came home. I was like, I'm calling it a day. I can't deal with this. This is too much. Yeah. Whereas now, I mean, there's more understanding that I'm going to be feeling different emotions at different points in time, and then I can regulate myself and be present with that emotion rather than have a sense of fear or anxiety towards feeling something.
Yeah, and also one other thing, like as I mentioned in the start, that I've started meditating a lot frequently.
Yeah.
Like I used to do this before the workshop also, but meditation for me was always like, it was staying in the thoughts. It was never to get away from it. Like especially guided meditation that we all tend to do in today's world. It's just, you are actually focusing on a thought. That's all you're doing. And now I could just deeply connect with, the higher being or the higher self, whatever. And that is another fruitful experience. And that just puts me in a state of mindfulness. Like when I'm actually doing the work, I can just actually feel like earlier to write 100 words, for example. Like, I'm a copywriter, so I take copywriting gigs, right? So earlier for writing, let's just say even 500 words, I'll take hours constantly obsessing over it. Like, and sometimes just opening up Instagram and like new stimulation instead of doing the work. But now I can just sit for 20 minutes, turn everything off and write what I want to do. Not chasing perfection. Once I go through it, I make small tweaks and it just gets better. So it saves me a lot of time. I'm able to do more. And also like, I could feel like earlier I was thinking before that, like during childhood, we are like, sahi se karo, like do the thing properly. So there's always a sense of judgment in everything that you do. And that forces you to chase, in my case, at least perfectionism or being perfect, or otherwise, if you not get that 90 or whatever, you feel like it's not okay. Right. So now it's not that much about, it's like work gets done in stages, and the more you do, the better it will get.
Right. I remember like, like when we'd be writing exams and, the teacher comes and stands next to you and looks at your paper. That's when that's the time when you feel really judged. The bitch is fucking judging me right now. And I would always be like, I'd hide it. By the time I reach class 8, I'd just tell ma'am, I was like, ma'am, stop looking at my paper. I don't want to show it to you. Like, let me do it. Or I like keep looking, man.
After exam, I used to do the same thing, and my hair, the pen marks or nishan aa jate the.
I was like, no, stop looking at my paper. And Yeah. Then again, so with you mentioned that, earlier there's a lot of fear of judgment and perfectionism. So that could also be, that because we're not taught that it's okay to make mistakes, or the pressure that you have to get it right the first time, and saying things like failure is not an option. But in real life, always like, you will not be getting things in the first attempt. It'll take a couple of attempts to maybe get it, and that's how you learn things. And even if you fail, it's not technically failure. It's not like the world is going to end. It basically means that you need to try again, and there was something that you missed out. And because of this reason only, like a lot of people, because of academics pressure, like, are committing suicide in the country and everywhere around the world, because the constant pressure that has been given, that this is everything, and they feel like this is the end all and be all, that if I fail, or if I get 3% marks lesser and I don't top, then it'll be a problem.
Exactly. And some of my, like, I did engineering, and some of my friends, they go for interviews, right? And if they don't get the job, like, they'll feel so embarrassed and so defeated that they'll take a low paying job, something that they don't even deserve. Like, they deserve more, they can earn more, and they feel worthless because they were not able to get that, let's just say, the job into TCS, for example.
So meko ye bata, tell me about your general satisfaction with life. So let's say before the workshop, or before even that one session we did online, before that, on a scale of 1 to 10, what was like your set state of mind or state of happiness during that time?
4, 4.5.
4.5. And then right after the workshop?
Right after the workshop, I felt like the king of the world.
10 on 10. And then, and then after that, of course, like, it might have gone down and come back up and everything. So now is like a good time for us to gauge, like, it's been almost six months or something, right? So 6, 7, 8 months. So now where is your life? Because now that sweet honeymoon phase of the workshop is also over. So what's your set state at this point?
Earlier, like, in January and in December, I felt like a victim. I'll be honest. I felt like, because of all of those things that happened, like, why me? Right? So again, during that victim phase, I again went down 4.5. But then I picked myself up, like, it's time to take up accountability also. Like, you have the reason for that, and now it's just time to build. And after realizing that I am just, on another level, in terms of confidence, I feel I could actually get things done. I can actually achieve things. There's so many dreams which I never even thought existed for me.
Right.
And it's just a general way of being happy with yourself, being energetic, being fun. And so I'll rate it around, sometime on an average, I'll rate it around 7 when I'm idle, when I'm alone. When I'm with people, it's easily 9.
Okay, so from 4 to like at least 7 or 7, 8,
7
we can like
almost double. Almost double.
Yeah, almost double. We can stay there, right? Good, good enough. Right. So so one thing with victim mentality that I see on the internet every time is like there's a shame associated with being a victim now. Earlier there was victim praising, now there's victim shaming. So now we shame ourselves because, oh my God, we're being like a victim. But then when we're going through this healing process, now the first stage is to realize that you were a victim. Okay. Because at that point in time, you do not have anyone give you that love or accept you for who you are. So you want to be at that stage, and along with it comes the stage of blaming or being resentment towards your parents or the people who had important, who played an important part in your life and who were a part of all that stuff. So it's very natural to make you feel like a victim, because at least at that point, you will be taken care of. And you feel safer at that point. And because if you're not even feeling like a victim, then that means there's no hope. Then you're blaming yourself, right? Uske baad, you can blame someone else. You can be like, oh, it wasn't my fault. All right. So a little bit of that shame reduces, a little bit of, security increases, safety increases, being with the people, and finally feeling like, you're being understood. Then when the healing occurs, and then after, the work is over, then your real life starts. Then there needs to be a point where you need to let go of that arrogance and the hatred that you might have built towards the people and the victim mentality. So that needs to let go.
One thing, like, exactly to your point, like, we did a meetup after the workshop, I guess 2 months after that. And you told us that you need to be, you can't have that arrogance now.
Yeah.
You have to be like, you should always like, for the case of parents, you should always be thankful for them,
Yeah.
giving you the greatest gift of life.
Yeah.
And you'll always be somewhat respectful for that. You should always feel that, and you should not think that you are the parent now.
Yeah.
So like in regards to the relationship.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, for a month or two, you will feel like a victim, yeah. And then the thing is that when we do the work, it's completely fine to, like blame your parents or blame your parents or the society for the bad stuff that you do. Now, the thing again here,
it's important.
Yeah. Again, the thing here is that whenever you talk about, blaming your parents, again, you're going to be put down and you're going to feel guilt from people around you, feel the pressure that what kind of a person am I if I'm blaming my parents? All right. But again, it's not about blame. It's just about understanding your own pain and understanding where it's come from and how you're associated with that. So when we can start off with that, of course, not confronting your parents about it, but once we can start off with that, we can get the healing in order. And then afterwards, once you heal the wounds, then you need to let go of that arrogance and that feeling like a victim and really start to take charge. So in the starting, it makes sense to like properly cry and feel like a victim that such bad things have happened and these other people have done this to me, because that's the normal healing process. And only after you've gone through that, then comes the time of taking charge for yourself and standing up for yourself. And only then can you really believe that you can stand up for yourself, because uske pehle to you've never had anyone stand up for you. You never had any references. So now those references get built slowly.
We talked about spiritual bypassing also. Like so that is the case.
Yeah, so spiritual bypassing also happens with like, no, I can't blame my parents or I can't feel like a victim. I've always need to be the strong person. But it's the inner state that we're talking about. No matter what of a facade or what of an impression we can bring out, the inner state is always going to know what is really going on inside, which is very painful.
Like, for example, sometimes, I just feel like just shutting off from the world and just being with myself and crying.
Yeah.
And it's completely okay for me. And because now it's like I don't judge my emotions. It's like if I feel angry, I'll just go for a walk, or I'll take it out in some ways, like some of the ways we talked about in the workshop, like going to the gym or doing that anger releases, because that is important.
Yeah.
And I really feel that I can do that.
Yeah. So judgment towards emotion again like goes back into the childhood where you're not allowed to feel certain emotions, because let's say you're being angry towards your parents, then your parents are going to make you feel guilty or maybe even slap you and discipline you and tell you that you're not supposed to feel angry, or shame you, being like, you're such a bad boy that you're angry. In our family we do not get angry at people. So then the child feels that this emotion is bad. So the split starts, the split of the consciousness and in the mind. And although we're born perfectly fine, that's where we start to not like ourselves. So one part, if we're talking about men, one part is about the anger. Either we use anger to get control, all right? Men are so aggressive because that's the only way most of the men realize that we can get control of a situation. Or secondly, someone would never stand up for themselves because they feel anger is bad. But then anger needs to be used. You need to stand up for yourself at times. You need to, create that safe space around you. And that's where anger is really helpful. Then another block that happens around emotions is about crying, as you just mentioned, and being emotional. Saying like, this is not something that men do. Men don't cry at all.
Yeah.
So that brings judgment into it again.
Like to it, I'll just quote a personal story. Yeah. Like, once I was with a girl and, we were talking about something, and again about the past, and it was just a moment we were sharing our lives. And I started to cry, and after some time she was like earlier I couldn't even imagine to do that, but then she had this judgment that you need to be emotionally strong. Like people who cry, I feel, are not emotionally strong.
She said that.
Yeah. And I was like, it's okay. If you feel that, you feel that. I don't mind. I do what I do.
Like, shut the fuck up, bitch. I mean, what do you mean you need to be emotionally strong? Like, what takes more courage, to cry in front of people or to not cry in front of people? I mean, it takes more courage to cry in front of people, dude. Because it's easier to wear that mask on you that I'm always happy, positive, I'm so spiritual. Let's talk about how important was it for you to, go through this work? And why was it so important? And let's say it would not have happened. Let's go with worst case scenario, how your life would have turned out.
I cannot even imagine.
Yeah.
It's like, for example, let's just say if a person, like I will try to paint a picture, like in 1960s computers were invented. And if we thought that that's the best we can get, we'll always be stuck up with those computers, right? Those big, gigantic computers. If one person came that we can make it smaller, we can, constant work needs to be there. And if you just, if I just accepted that what it is like, and I would just keep on that society wala thing. I'll go find a job and maybe get married, get arranged marriage at some age, have kids, and go for occasional vacations, and just being like utterly disgusted. And also because of I felt so many things, I would do that to my children and do that to others around me, and continue the cycle. Instead of now it's a break, like this will not go forward, at least to a large extent. And so in a way it has affecting my future generation, future people I engage with, my even future generations also. Sometimes I do wonder, what if this thing didn't happen? I'm like, oh God, like, my school friends come up to me and they're like, dude, what are you? Like, what happened? And like one of those girls was like, I used to, you like, now we are dating, and now we're like, then she was like, she was in the same batch as me, right? And for her, I didn't even exist. And like now it's like, you are a completely different person. And even my college friends, they're like, dude, tujhe kya ho gaya? Are you high? Like, kitni daru pi hai? Daru nahi pi maine. Energy I nahi sakti uske beta.
So people have the notion that apart from getting drunk, you can never be happy and energetic and pumped up.
And if we record this video and post it on some mainstream, it will be like, these people are high, they do cocaine. Kuch kara hai isse pehle.
Oh God, yeah, can't imagine that happening, yaar, after all this.
And I'll just like to add one thing, like again, this stuff, like in this session I've been extremely energetic, and this is just a part of me, but in a lot of conversations and a lot of things I'm just relaxed also. I'm a lot more grounded and centered, and actually feeling what's happening, actually understanding what needs to be done. Like there's this book I read just 10 days ago, Crucial Conversations. And it was a lot of a doing book, but I could, because of all the inner work, I could realize where it's coming from. Like it just tells you how to fix your conversations. Like, but I know the deep science behind it also. So a lot of times I feel I'm grounded, and this constant feeling of gratitude and constant feeling of being full. Instead, when I compare it to earlier, it was constant feeling of lack. So it's like lack versus gratitude.
Right.
And this just expands you and keeps you going. And this just burdens you and, makes you fall into those cycles again and again.
Say, yeah. So one thing that I get from people usually is that, bro, these things happened in the past. And people feel like, now life is going, and they just have like a sense of just jo ho raha, and whatever's happening, that's just the way it is. And this happened in the past. How does it even affect us right now? So if you were to what would you want to tell those people from your basic experience?
Like, I'll just again paint an analogy. Like you learn, let's just say, how to write letters during your childhood. That is the same way you still do it. Or there was a way you, let's just say if someone is into science and you were told to mix chemicals in a test tube. Bro, you used to mix chemicals in a test tube. Now get a drone or usme mix kar. Right? It doesn't make sense, right? So whatever happened in the past, yes, it did. But you have to realize that it still affects you. And the sooner you accept it, the sooner it will get better.
Yeah.
Because you are here to live, to actually be the most optimal, the most expansive, the most best version of you can. And this is not a mainstream wala quote. This is something you can actually do, and anyone can do it. And until you just try to sugarcoat it that, those things were in the past, and try to paint a dreamy Disney wala picture that, it's going to get better. It might not just happen. The first big realization for me was that actually acknowledging that there is something wrong.
Right.
That acknowledgement needs to be there.
And
only when you do that, you can, move forward. Because acceptance and acknowledging is the first step.
Do you think this would not work for a certain kind of a people? Because when people say those things also, that bro, this will not work for me, this happened and there is no safety for me, I cannot change at all, this will not happen only.
For them, I will say that I'll just share a story. Like today, so one of my good college friends, I told her to, I shared a link with me for a workshop, a meditation workshop. And I remember her being, I feel so easy sometimes. And, genuinely, I shared with her that you can try this stuff. And so today I shared the link, and she was like, I almost thought to join it, but I don't think I can do it. And I was like, why do you think that is the case? And she was like, I joined the gym, and after 20 days I gave it up. And I constantly do things and I just give up. So I was like, to explain that to her, I just said, like a few months ago you went to that trek, right? And she's not the most fittest ones, and you were like, initially the thoughts might have been, I can't do it, that I might not be able to do it, but your friends were like, hey, let's go, we'll have fun. And then you were actually on the trek, and it seemed even more difficult. Like all the stones, you could feel like, what would your parents say? You'll get hurt, you could probably die, no one will know. But you start taking steps, and eventually when you get at the top, the view is beautiful. So you have to acknowledge that you can do stuff about it. You can actually do it. Like all of these people talk about change. They will not be saying it, they'll not be able to fake it. So many people cannot fake it. So you need to, what I'll tell those people is that you need to trust yourselves. Maybe you need to ask yourself, why do you think you can't do it? Why do you think it will not work for you? Maybe after attending this workshop, you'll have an answer for it. Why do you feel constant?
That's the same like self-sabotage pattern, right?
Exactly.
I will not be able to do it because in the past I've always, I haven't taken action and I've left it. I'll leave it again.
And also, like some people feel that they are beyond this, and there's a sense of ego behind it that I don't need it. I already have a successful business, or I'm already a successful Instagram or YouTube star. Why do I need it? And for those people, dude, are you really happy? Are you like, in general, do you feel happy with yourself? Or only when you are at the social situations, we say that what's the word? Like dominant reality in one situation, like situational reality, right? So for example, a DJ, when he's DJing, he might feel that he's the king and everyone will respond to him. But when you take that club away, he'll be like, so if you are that, maybe you need to fix it.
So it depends on the situation you're in and not coming from a poor place.
Exactly.
It's more stable. So it's like, I mean, there are no roots to it. It's just like a facade which is up there. And here is something more of like a long-lasting transformation that happens when you do this work.
It's lasting. It's a continuous process. Once you will start doing it, you will start doing it.
Sahi hai, bro. Good stuff, yaar.
Good talk, bro.
Anything else you have to add here?
I'll just take this opportunity to be thankful. Baba, like we have been doing so many things. Like this is the in a game in a work interview, but we have been doing other things also. And in general, I found a new friend in you, like someone I can actually take advice and not sugarcoat things. And tell me what it is. Like, कि कोई बात नहीं, ऐसा नहीं हो जाएगा. Like you need to do this. You need to realize what's happening. And there's this, and in general also, I feel very thankful, and it's a feeling that you can only feel, and it's like, it's so relaxing, it's so calming, and you're just happy. You're just happy not for the superficial things. Ki I have the sneakers, I'm happy. You're happy without having anything.
Sahi hai, bro. Thank you so much, yaar.
Bro. Thank you to you.
Bro, you're welcome, man.
Sign up with him.